standing at the Bris Bein Habesarim, where there's such closeness and they're making a covenant of peacefulness between Hashem and Avraham Avinu to always remain and always keep this closeness. How is it that Hashem starts informing Avraham Avinu about the various exiles, the various Galus that are going to exist for Avraham Avinu's offspring, for Avraham Avinu's descendants? As it says in Bris Bein Habesarim, Parsha Mem Daled, Yud Zayin, that the various words of the pasuk that Hashem is telling Avraham Avinu refer not only to Galus Mitzrayim, but to all of the Galus, all of the exiles that are going to come later on throughout history. How is it possible? It's a moment of covenant. It's a moment of closeness. It's a moment of friendship, so to speak. And if one will say that the reason why Hashem was telling Avraham Avinu about all these terrible things during this exalted moment is because Hashem knew that the Yidden were going to go against this covenant, well, then what was the reason that for Hashem to make a covenant? The only reason why a covenant is made is in order to keep the friendship later on. When two people are friendly, they don't need to make a covenant with each other. They're already friendly. They're already on good terms. The reason why people make a covenant is in order to pre-warn and caution that even if later one of the sides take away a reason for a covenant and they sort of go against that friendship, the covenant, the earlier covenant should work, that even later they're going to continue to be friends even though something came in the way of their friendship. So what was the reason why Hashem is telling Avraham Avinu about the opposite of friendship, the opposite of closeness, the opposite of a peace treaty, so to speak, during the time of the Bris Bein Habesarim? It says in the Medrash Rabbah, in Bereishis Rabbah, Mem Daled Chaf Aleph, that Hashem gave Avraham Avinu two options, Gehenim or Shibud Galuyos, and Avraham Avinu chose Shibud Galuyos over Gehenim. But that's not a good enough answer. That's just telling us that there were two options of punishments, and Avraham Avinu chose that option of exile, and Hashem was telling him that his option of exile was accepted. But why is Hashem mentioning it now? Why is it important during a moment of closeness and joy together? In Likutei Sichos Krach Beis, page 359, it's explained, very beautiful, a deeper angle of Galus, of exile, and according to that, we will understand the context of mentioning the exiles in the middle of the Bris Bein Habesarim. The truth is that Galus is not just a punishment. Of course, Galus appears to be a punishment externally because it's not just positive. A person does something wrong and then there seems to be retribution, so to speak, for the sin, for the wrongdoing. But really, Galus is much more than just a punishment. Galus really is a preparation for what's going to come afterwards. It's not just paying back, so to speak, for sins from before, but it's really preparing for what's going to come later. And it's interesting, we find a mashal for this, like a seed which is put in the ground, and from that seed comes out a tree. Before the seed starts to grow, it actually becomes no good. It rots. The seed rots, and from the rotted seed, that's where the tree comes from. So this rotting of the seed is not something bad. Doesn't show that we're putting a seed in the ground and we're getting rid of it. It actually shows on the tree, on the growing object, which is a good thing, which is going to come in the future. And the same thing is with Galus. Galus looks like there's the opposite of positivity going on. It looks like a seed being put in the ground and rotting, but really it's preparing for what's going to come later. And therefore, when looking at exile, there's three responses. There are three possible responses that a person could have. And we can give an example from a very close friend of a king. And the king always showed great friendship to this subject of his. And then one day, the king turns to this friend, expels him from the palace, expels him from all of his lands, and he says, he doesn't want to see him anymore, and he should go away to a faraway island where he'll never have to deal with him. And there are three options for how this former friend of the king will handle the situation. One is that he could just give in and say, that's it, the king doesn't want me anymore, and I'm just going to start enjoying my new life, just get used to a new life where the king is not in my life, I'm not going to think about him, and I'm just going to be like a regular person and do whatever, however people live life. Another option is that he will be depressed. He will think to himself, I used to be close with the king. And that thought is going to nag at him and bother him, and it's going to bring him to be constantly sad that he's missing that closeness with the king. The third option is that he thinks to himself and he says, the king is my friend. The king is always nice to me. I'm sure that this is only temporary. I'm sure that the king is preparing for something much greater which is going to come in the future. And therefore, although this is sad, this is not a happy situation, nonetheless, I am looking forward and I'm yearning for that time when the king will call me back and our friendship will continue in a revealed manner. And the same thing is with us in the current Galus, in the current exile. We have three options how to view Hashem's putting us into Galus. One is that Hashem sent us away from Yerushalayim, and now let's just get used to our new life. We're not near the king, we're not near the Shekhinah, we're in Galus, and let's just chas v'shalom enjoy life as it is wherever we live. That's one option. Another option is for a person to miss the Shekhinah, to miss the spiritual ecstasy that people had when they had the Beis HaMikdash and the Shekhinah was around, and there were amazing nisim happening in front of their very eyes. And a person will miss it. A person will feel like we don't have it anymore. And then the person, because of that, will become depressed, that we're just lost. We're lost. We're away from the king. We're away from Hashem, our Father, our King's table. And because of that, they'll get depressed and just give up. And say, we'll just live the rest of life just being sad that we don't have the spirituality and our closeness with Hashem, our revealed closeness that we used to have. The third option is that we know that Hashem dearly loves every Yid. And therefore, we know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that everything that we're going through now is temporary. And that Hashem is going to bring us back to His table. Hashem is going to reveal His closeness and His love for every Yid once again. And therefore, we yearn for this time. Of course, it's not such a happy situation to be in Galus, to be in exile. But we yearn for that time. We yearn with tremendous hope. And we're always looking forward for that time. When Hashem will bring the redemption, redeem us from this Galus, and bring us back next to Him in the palace, to our former friendship, that it should be rekindled in a revealed manner. And this is what Hashem was hinting to when He mentioned the Galus, the exiles during the Bris Bein Habesarim. The Bris Bein Habesarim. Hashem is showing tremendous friendship and closeness to Avraham Avinu and making a covenant. Imagine Hashem and Avraham Avinu making a covenant. Such an amazing thing. Comes along and Hashem says that you should always remember this covenant. You should know this closeness is always there. There may be times of concealment. There may be times when Hashem says that He will send away the descendants of Avraham Avinu from Yerushalayim, from a moment of Gilui Shechina, from a moment of revealed spirituality. Nonetheless, you should know that our friendship of now, of the Bris Bein Habesarim, is always there. This is why Hashem mentioned the exiles during the Bris Bein Habesarim. Not to take away the closeness, but to show that the closeness will always be there, even during challenges, even during the exiles. Hashem is always there. We shouldn't start to live other lives other than Yiddishkeit because we're in Galus. We shouldn't get depressed and say Hashem sent us away. We miss it and it's very sad. We shouldn't be sad. A little sadness should be there. We should focus on that Bris Bein Habesarim moment of closeness. And we should know that it's always there. And we should look forward to the time when it's going to come back speedily in our days.